Is it already still fall or already winter there, Prof?
Well, you can never say. November is not nice. You never know.
Still fall in
2 weeks,
Germany?
yeah, officially, yes. 2 weeks ago, we had already autumn, but more than 20 degrees here, which is not common. So we have a climate change here too. And now it's not very nice in the night. It's maybe 0. And during the day, now maximum maybe 10. So this is still autumn, but November
still
is
autumn, yeah.
It's rainy and cold and not nice. And here inside
the house, in winter. Cannot imagine in winter.
Can be very cold, can be normal. It's not always cold here. I mean, we have very few days with snow. Usually this is not so. It can be -20, it can be +10. We never know, right?
-20. I can imagine.
And we spare heating now. We spare heating now because of this war, this gas crisis. So because the heating is very expensive at the moment, electricity, gas, heating, oil heating, very expensive. So we keep the rooms not warmer than 19 to 20 degrees. Not heating too much.
Yeah, so sorry.
We could afford it to make it warmer, but this is anyway more healthy, not too hot. So we have a maximum 20 degrees here in the rooms, and not all rooms. Bedrooms, bathroom, kitchen, we don't heat.
Yeah. I think maybe we can.
I love to sleep in the night in the cold. I cannot stand to sleep in warm, but cold, natural cold, not that air conditioned cold. So I really like it when it's 15, 16 degrees in the bedroom. And it is very good for the immune system. It's very cozy. If you have a warm bed, not like normal selimut biasa, tapi selimut dengan feather, yeah. So
bed comforter,
It's very cozy. Okay.
Okay, maybe we can start, right, Prof? Allow me to start. Say greetings first. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everyone is doing well and still remain in high spirit for our last session for Cyber Notary with Prof. Stefan Koos. My name is Yuswar, and I will be your moderator for this lecture. First of all, I would like to greet Head of Notary Master's Study Program, Prof. Hasim Purba, and Secretary of Notary Master's Study Program, Prof. Rosnidar Sembiring. Today, we will continue from the last slide that already explained by Prof. Stefan Koos last week. I believe all participants and I will be benefited from wonderful and insightful topic related techniques for making notarial that we discussed today. In the Zoom room, we will have opportunity to meet again with Prof. Stefan Koos, with our wonderful lecturer. Without any further ado, please welcome Prof. Stefan Koos. The screen is yours now, Prof.
Terima kasih. Saya mau ganti ke slide. Oh, nanti saya kirim PDF materi itu.
Baik, Prof.
Saya biasanya tidak kasih materi sebelum selesai dengan kuliah. Saya kira untuk attention itu lebih baik tidak punya materi sebelum itu, ya. So itu biasa saya, ya, dengan mahasiswa saya juga.
Understood, Prof. Okay. Understood.
Ya, mungkin untuk repeat yang kuliah kemarin kita berbicara tentang beberapa development, digitalization di notary, dengan blockchain, dengan smart contracting, dan juga sedikit tentang artificial intelligence. What is the Indonesian word? Kecerdasan apa?
Kecerdasan buatan, Prof. Kecerdasan buatan.
Kecerdasan buatan, ya. Dan kita belajar bahwa instrumen digitalization tidak fit semua dengan profesi notari Tapi itu ya depending dengan ya bagaimana itu notary common law atau notary continental law, hukum kontinental. Kalau hukum kontinental itu akan sulit ganti semua kepada digital notary. Ada beberapa instrumen bisa menggunakan, tapi notary kontinental punya task, punya tugas juga untuk yang perlu ya kecerdasan manusia ya, harus fleksibel dan emosi. So today we will talk, also I want to repeat that here, that the blockchain will not replace the registers totally, depending on the system of the real estate law. And I showed you that, for example, in Germany, that will not be possible. And today I would like to speak about that one also. We already talked about the digital globalization, right? Or not? Did we do that? Did we speak about that slide? Or not yet?
Not yet, Prof.
Ini belum. Oke. Mari kita mulai dengan salah satu fakta tentang ya frame condition untuk hukum ekonomi dan hukum umum hari ini, di masa ini, di digitalization. Dan kalau saya menulis doctoral thesis saya di tahun 94, term globalization tadi sudah penting untuk semua, tapi itu baru. Saya punya tesis yang pertama, saya kira di hukum persaingan usaha berbicara tentang globalisasi di 93-94, tahun 94. Hari ini saya kira globalization ekonomi sudah tidak benar penting sama seperti globalization digital. Kenapa? Globalization digital punya potensi untuk ganti importance hukum in general. So we will see a shift in the meaning of the law as an instrument for conducting and steering societies by digitalization. And that is important because this poses important ethical questions, which will also be important for our topic of the legal tech and the legal notary and the digital notary issues. Why? Now, the internet was not a real disruption, because I think I mentioned that already in one of the last two lectures, that the internet did not disrupt that much, because the internet was just accelerating the ways of communication and the kind of communication. However, the law was able and totally fit to adapt to the new phenomenon of the internet, with certain adaptations, like digital certificates and these things, and define maybe what is a digital contract and this, but this all was not really disruptive. So we can say from the part of the civil law, we had not a big issue with that. However, we could already notice very early that with the internet and with the shift of a lot of tasks of the economy, of the politic, of the society into the virtual areas, we could observe a deterioration and a diminishing of state power in regulating and controlling their territories. And this is very easy to understand if you see your issues with the influencing of elections, with hate speech, all these things which coming out from outside via big platforms. And also, I think I mentioned that also already, that Lawrence Lessig already in the 2000 wrote about the East Coast Code and the West Coast Code. I think we talk about that too, which says that we have a code power, which is a part of the code power of the legislator, of the classical state legislator, in the activities of technological companies and big technological international concerns like maybe Alphabet or maybe Meta and all these big platform companies. So what does that mean? It means that we have influencing to our territories coming from supra-territorial area, from an ubiquitary area, from the virtual area. So the virtual space is influencing the territorial space. And whenever there's an influence to the territorial space, there is needed the question, how we control what happens in our territory, and how we control that if the influencing comes from abroad. And not only from abroad, it comes via an instrument or a vehicle, which is virtual and therefore not territorial, but ubiquitous in the virtual space. So why I tell you this? I tell you this because we can see that this, I call it the digital technical globalization, leads to diminishing of the power of the state as a legislator and in administrative power, because the states can not longer control everything what is influencing their territory. Yeah, because it comes not from territorial accessible and accessible activities. So, and control over the territory, over the own territory, is a natural part of the original part of the sovereignty, of the term of sovereignty of states. So we see that the sovereignty is more and more displaced by the ubiquity of the internet, and therefore with the development of the internet now to virtual spaces and maybe metaverse, maybe if ever it happens, and so on, with the technicity. So the technology, the digital technology is replacing that. And that I call the digital globalization. Why? Because we will see that if there is not enough control of the local territory by the local law, by the state law, then the society will seek for different alternative instruments to protect its interest. And these alternative instruments may not be legal instruments like the data protection law or the hate speech legislations or these things, or the hak cipta, so the hukum hak cipta. It may be technical instruments in order to counter strike the danger coming by ubiquitous platforms to the territory and therefore to the citizens of this territory. So it will not longer be maybe important enough that the state is making legislation, but the society will seek for alternative security instruments. And these security instruments we see in several ways. Not so well known is, for example, that we see a tendency in the internet security technology that hacking is more and more done by algorithms which try to hack into systems in national territories, and that the human is not able maybe to fast enough react to these hacking attacks. Maybe this flooding of questioning of web pages to make it to set web pages down, but also hacking instruments. And that for counter-strike, so the hacking is maybe in the future done by AI and artificial intelligence. As a counter-strike, we will also use these instruments which automatically counterfight the attacks to our systems. So the machine is fighting against the machine in the future. and maybe more or less independent of the human who is reacting maybe to attacks. Maybe the machine, the algorithm will notice where there is an attack. And we see other aspects like we mentioned the blockchain technology. The blockchain technology can be used for proving something without to need to have some national registers or some national authorities to help us to prove something. And I mentioned, especially for the legal tech important, I mentioned the project of my colleague about how the smart contracts, the intelligent smart contracts. A smart contract is nothing else at a vending machine. You put a coin, you get the cigarettes. But the smart contract combined with artificial intelligence may be able to analyze situation and react to the situation and make a certain market relevant action, maybe together with other smart contracts. And then we have totally autonomous market activities, as we already saw in the, I mentioned that also, as we already saw in the case of the German airline Lufthansa with the local tickets, which were raised in the price at once as the AI noticed, oh, there is no concurrent anymore, so let's raise the price, and no human decision was there. So the question will be for the law in the future, how we want to seize that problems. Yeah, if we have no incentive to comply with the law, with the rules anymore in the future, then there will be the question how we can conduct and to steer the situation of the human society, because the AI or the algorithm or the technology is not open for incentives to comply with rules. And this is exactly the problem in the digital globalization. The digital globalization leads to equalizing the situations in many in the cities, in the states of the world, because the conditions for the human society and for the economy are more and more shaped by the conditions in the virtual sphere, in the internet, and therefore cannot totally and sufficiently answered by the legislation which is in a non-virtual world. So there will be maybe an equalization of the conditions, and the societies will seek for security instruments like technology, like smart contract technology, like AI systems, to react to the threat, the threatening coming from the ubiquity world, from the technology itself, because the human reaction of the state is due to the lack of full sovereignty, factual sovereignty, not strong enough. And I mentioned that, and with that, I want to close this aspect here. I mentioned that I think that we have a crisis of the international law in the moment and on the future, as the question whether a certain regulation, which is containing this globalizing sphere, is useful and helpful or not, is depending on the economical and political power of blocs and states who are able to enforce their law extraterritorial due to the interest of the market actors in the markets or in complying with the politics of that blocs. So this is a political power principle replacing the legal principle. And of course, globalization means also we will have an equalization of the society. I always used to mention that in my presentation on the metaverse. If we see our condition nowadays, we have several cultures and we have rules which I would not call ethic, I would call moral, because moral is are rules which are more bound to certain cultures or certain groups of people, not maybe general, but what is allowed to say in one country is maybe not allowed to say in the other country. Certain behavior is allowed in one country because that country is maybe more liberal. Certain behavior is not allowed in another country because there is maybe a more conservative way to decide about that. And the question is, will that be in the future possible to maintain I was asked in Mataram this year in a conference about this virtuality by a guy, obviously very conservative looking guy, and he asked me, yeah, here in Mataram we had traditional music, always. It was so nice here in Lombok, our Sasak music. But nowadays, when I go the streets, I all the time hear American music, which is shit. And what could the law do against that? Yeah, this is a question which will be stronger in the future with the digital globalization. Yeah, what will you do against cultural influence in the virtual world if the states are not even able to protect the citizens in other aspects? Yeah, so if the sovereignty is not strong enough, the people will choose what they want and which elements of the global culture they want to use if they move in the virtual world. And we see that already, that people behave in the virtual world different than the real world and do whatever they want. And the question is, how will this influence, this is a cultural aspect, how will this influence the diversity of cultures in the world? Yeah, so the future of separate cultures or certain peculiar cultures will depend on the will, on the wish of the people to maintain that culture, and not anymore on, let's say, social pressure or legalization or legislations of preserving cultures or elements of the cultures to protect it from influence from outside. That will maybe in the future not work anymore. Now, these are the frame aspects, and one of the big point is of this digital globalization is the replacement of emotionality and the human factor by technology. And we can see this very good in the example of the artificial intelligence. And I would like to talk about that artificial intelligence example in the example of legal tech. And in the end, I will also come back to close the circle to the notary. Now, legal tech is a big topic, a wide topic, of course, combined with or connected to the digitalization. And in the COVID time, I hate to talk about that COVID because over 2 years, so many conferences in the Zoom where I should talk about post-pandemic and I've got COVID and how COVID influenced that and COVID influenced that. But we must admit that the COVID really led to an acceleration of the development of digital strategies. And in many aspects, I think the society would still not think carefully enough about how to deal with digitalization questions. Just an example from the teaching, you are far away with that, yeah. So you are far advanced. You have already long the equipment for mixed virtual and real lectures and transfer the lectures to several universities all over Indonesia. That is what we not have. We don't have yet already fixed installed cams and monitors for transferring lectures online or so. We don't do that. We are in many ways more old-fashioned than you in Indonesia. In many ways, the digitalization, especially in law, I must say, is not strong due to the conservatism of the teachers, yeah. And maybe this is this is just an assumption. I don't know if it's really true, but maybe that is also because we have especially in Germany, we have mostly professors in the faculties who teach. And professors can be younger and can be older, but professors normally usually stay until they 65 or 68, and the lecturers are professors in the faculty. Not much, not like here, like in Indonesia, you have a lot of lecturers and then very few professors. there are very few lecturers who are not professors. There are assistants who maybe take some exercises, make some exercises with the students, but the main lectures are done by professors, and maybe that leads to certain conservatism because all the professors are not really happy to change to the digitalization. I myself know colleagues who until the end just record their lectures at home and did not want to make a live Zoom meeting with the students. And for me, it was really a learning process, very interesting for me. When I started, I made with my iPhone, I made short movies, 15 minutes, and then put them together. And then I was thinking, why not live? And nowadays, I even make YouTube videos, and so I would never have done that. So we can see that the digitalization is really pushed by the COVID. And of course, in the legal tech, it's the same, because people had to ask, should I go to the notary? Should I go to the lawyer? What if I have to go to the court? Will I infect myself? Why we cannot do that online? And so, and this is a little bit a German issue, because in the European Union, we have quite a heterogeneity of that. So we have states in the European Union, like, for example, Estlandia, who are full digitalized. So you can do the most of the things for the administration online. Whereas in Germany, there is a strong reluctance. Germany is quite reluctant to digitalize everything due to the aspect of that could be dangerous, it could be hacked, it could be break together. We don't know what happens if something is really hacked and then switch off the society, because the society is digital and the digitalization means that everything is connected with everything. So the internet breaks together. What can we do then? This is the issue. And that also can be observed in the discussion on innovation legislation about, for example, about the European legislation about artificial intelligence, which I mentioned later again, which was in the discussion within the European Union. Some states said we must regulate more. Other states said we should not regulate, we should make it to the self-responsibility of the companies, because otherwise we would stop the development, and that would not be good for the innovation of Europe. And these states were exactly the already digitalized states who wanted to make it free, but whereas Germany is traditionally rather interested in a reasonable regulation about things, because there are dangers indeed. So legal techs are procedures that produce computer-assisted decisions as a service for solving legal problems that can be structured automatically. And we have 3 stages of the legal tech. The legal tech 1.0, this is already implemented. Simple computer-supported office organization, communication, administration of documents, bookkeeping, online services, cloud services, video conferences. If there is no forcing legislation which says it must be in presence, we talk about that for the notary services, and that is already implemented. Any company can do that. It's also very common nowadays, and this is not very dangerous. So there's no really big issue with that. The second step is the legal tech 2.0. This is already the automatization of standardized and repetitive actions. And that is already also implementable and also implemented. For example, we could use this digitalization, the digital technology for filing applications for enforcement in cases which are rather formal, where you can assess the facts very easy, and there is a certain clear procedure about that, and we can think about, then we give the facts to the system, and the system makes the filing. Or verdicts for certificates or inheritances. If there is no big assessment, which is flexible, it can be done by technology. And I heard that certain, I don't know if it's true, don't have a source for that, but I heard that even certain criminal proceedings are done already by AI in China. But obviously, such proceedings which are not very difficult to assess, which have clear, easy to assess facts and done. I don't say that I'm in favor of that. I just say that obviously in that case they do it. However, I will talk about the penal law and the criminal law about that later. We will talk about that and discuss that. And I'm of the opinion this is not possible for systems like ours. And the current stage is that we have more and more developments on that. Automatization of these standardized and repetitive actions. So for the legal tech, it is important that for lawyers and also for notaries, certain actions and certifications or certain processes are maybe taking too much time and not bringing enough income. So there will be an incentive to change to these systems, especially for the lawyers, to get the time free for the more lucrative actions for a lawyer. We will talk about how far that can be. And this is an example for that. Enforcement of monetary compensation for train delays in Germany. This is very easy to assess. You can say, what is the time that the train would be scheduled? And when there is the reported arrival of the passenger, and the difference between the scheduled time and the arrival of the train or the arrival of the passenger, when we say about when is the arrival schedule, is very easy to assess. There is no need for assessing any further facts or surrounding facts, or is it ethical, or do we have to make analogic assessments or something like that. It's very easy to assess. There is the time scheduled and there's the time which is real, which is happening. And then we see the difference. And when the difference is there, there is a clear understanding about what is the damage repair for that delay. And of course, this can also be implemented in air flight delays. And the rules give clear regulations about in this case, the passenger regulation of the European Union. In this case, how long is the delay? What is the claim for? Yeah, so how much you will have if the delay is like that, if the delay is like that, if the delay is like that. So all criteria are measurable, clearly measurable by the algorithm, by the system. Just giving the facts into the system can measure it. Can assess the measured facts which are given into the system, and this is publicly available as an information. So it can be even digged by the system. So the person would just maybe give the time when factually they arrive, and then the system can maybe already assess which is the scheduled time without knowing that. So the system would be automatically maybe be able to process that. And of course, this could in the wider future even combined with certain automatism in the execution, right? I mean, in the moment, the system would maybe file for the monetary compensation automatically. But if we had automatized systems, smart contract systems combined with that, it could be even thinkable that if the system not only files the monetary compensation, but if the system checks there is the right for a monetary compensation, then it influences the other system to give out the compensation in digital wallets or whatever. Yeah, so even that would be thinkable. And that is the legal tech 3.0. The inclusion of artificial intelligence in legal issues and actions. And this is, of course, very problematic and not yet, even if many people talk about that, not yet, of course, full implemented. Including artificial intelligence in legal issues and action. For example, exploring future options, exploring the future possible outcome of some filing for a claim. However, if we discuss about artificial intelligence in legal issues, may it be judges or notaries or lawyers, then there is one thing clear. We cannot make every legal action independent of humans. Otherwise, there could be a danger for the rule of law and for certain constitutional aspects of the law. And I want to name already here, before we come to the detail, especially the human dignity, which is here in as the super fundamental right, from which derive a lot of other fundamental rights, like the court rights of the citizen, so the right to be heard by court, the right to be heard by a human, the right to be assessed by a human, the right to have a good defension, and so on and so on. These are a lot of constitutional issues which will arise if we think too far. And I want to just give a short excursion about what I think about the interdisciplinarity in this sense, because in this sense we need interdisciplinarity with IT people, with blockchain experts, with AI experts, with founders, and indeed we do that here in Germany. In my university, I work together with marketing people, and in Indonesia we made already conferences together with IT people, and my issue with especially with the IT people who are in the development, also using it economically and try to develop products with that, is that they often extremely optimistic and extremely critical about the options of this technology. And I saw that in 2 points of my experience. Lastly, we applied for a research project together with a multidisciplinary and multinational team from marketing, IT, ethic, social sciences, and law, from Britain, Estlandia, Finlandia, and also Russia, from Finlandia and Germany, and so on, and Britain. And when I put my part to the project, there were already objections by the marketing people. Maybe we do too much regulations here. Maybe we should not discuss it too much about the law and the regulation. Because they are fascinated by the options they will have with the virtual reality and augmented reality, and also about this artificial intelligence. And I remember 5 years ago, I made a conference in Trisakti, and there was also a founder from Jakarta working with AI system. He was stunned by the options. When I talk about my issues with the AI as judges, he said, why you have these problems with that? So the AI is so perfect. Our AI is learning, self-learning. It will be more and more perfect, and the faultiness of the human being will be a problem, and that will be delayed. It will be a more just society. Sorry, I cannot share that. And last week I had a discussion in the LinkedIn with some guy, I think from Costa Rica or whatever, who was reacting to a very interesting paper of a Singaporean professor about token and digital assets, who analyzed that on the basis of the common law of the property principle of the common law. What are digital token? What are digital assets in the sense of property? But not in the sense of the continental law, of course. And he said, actually, the value of the token, the evaluation of the token, is depending on the economical function of evaluations. So the demand and the offer, and the people make demands, so the price is high, but it does not say something about the quality of tokens as property in the sense of the law, and it does not say anything about is it really protectable by the law, and in that case how to protect it. And then this guy was answering that why we lawyers must make everything complicated. So in that sense that we actually all old-valued and old-fashioned, and we will wake up soon, and then we open our eyes, and then we notice that we still think that the steam locomotives is necessary, but there is already the electric locomotive, and we are just outdated. Yeah, so no need to make it complicated. Just don't think too much. Just let it go, let it flow. Yeah, so this. I'm so sorry if I'm a little bit primitive, using primitive word, but this is shit, bullshit, absolute bullshit. And the society cannot afford to keep this, to have developments without any regulation and any thinking about how to integrate it into the rules of the society, which are defined by the law. And so this is my issue with that. And yeah, that maybe not anybody would share my idea that introduction of the AI into the legal text should be too much limited by the law. However, in my opinion, we are all law experts here, and we will understand that without any legal rules, that would be set a danger, because it can be heavily misused against the interest of the human beings. So what are the expected developments of that? Increasingly capable technical systems will outperform human professionals at many tasks. I don't say in which tasks, but in many tasks. So if we have automatizable tasks, which are not important for assessing very carefully and very flexible, then these systems are, of course, faster. Yeah, but already if it comes to digging about sources, I would maybe not trust nowadays systems like that, because I cannot be sure that it finds all. Just an example, I work much with the data bank for German commentaries, books, and legal journals. And yeah, of course, I let the algorithm search for documents which are important for my new edition of my book. And but I never trust it totally. So I always go after that myself by using different keywords, by checking out the important journals by myself, yeah, whether the algorithm found something. And the same happens, you will have that experience too with the translation programs, which are nowadays rather hermeneutic. But if we translate, and I give you the advance, do that, if we translate our text to English, then we always must go over it, because in many ways, even the legal terms are correct, because the translation is not stupid anymore. It's just not, it makes a hermeneutic analysis of contexts and then finds the right terms very often, but not always. And the human must always go over it to make it good. By the way, if you write papers, I must assess papers as editor of Indonesian journals, and sometimes I must read papers for the journals. And sometimes the papers are from the idea very good, but from the language not readable. Sometimes it's very good to write in Bahasa and then translate it by a good translation program like DeepL, for example, which makes nowadays even from Bahasa to English excellent translations, and then go over it. I do that myself. Yeah, don't think that here's this German arrogant to us. Yeah, because no, you notice maybe my English is not native speaker English. And this is very clear that I also make mistake. Important is that we can communicate. But if I write a paper, I used to do it originally, but it was not good enough. So nowadays I write my papers in German and translate it with DeepL and then go over it. And that makes much, much better papers. So this is just a little tip for the practice, because you will all write papers, especially if you will be lecturers, you need these Scopus things, and then you must write a lot of papers. Please do that. And don't or use a professional translator, but that spares money to do it yourself with the people. So this is very clear. Automatizing will spare time and money, but not always, because sometimes we see already that the digitalization costs us money, because we must maintain certain things and we must counter check certain things. Yeah. So sometimes we use it still analogous. Even if there is a digital technology, we don't use it. We just do it. Yeah. I don't use many macros in Word because it cost me a lot of time to find out how to program these macros. So I do it mostly by hand, and it's faster. So technical procedures cannot ultimately completely map, simulate, or replicate mental thought processes and behaviors of a legal expert. This is also true. So at least in the moment, and this is very questionable whether it will ever be able to do that, yeah? Because in the moment, we don't talk about strong artificial intelligence. We talk about weak artificial intelligence. And whether there will be ever strong artificial intelligence means emotionally intelligent system. This is very questionable, and there are even IT experts who say that will never happen because it's maybe not possible. And don't be fooled by these gags like Sophia in Saudi Arabia, which talks with you and makes mimics and smiles at you if you make a joke. And so this is all not strong artificial intelligence. Even if the Saudis give it a citizenship, this is just a weak intelligence, but not strong. This is just simulating human emotions, but there is no emotion. And emotion, we will see that is important for the application of the law. Very surprising, yeah, because we think the law must be equal and the law must be should be formal, but that is exactly the mistake that these IT people do when they say, but the AI is so perfect. Exactly the imperfectness of the human being is important for a just application of the law. I will come back to that. And automated legal proposals, forecast, probability statements, and optimizations are to be expected. That is very clear, that we will have expert systems who will dig data banks. And of course, here we see already a difference, yeah, between the common law and the continental law. The continental law is more application of the legislation of the codes. And then we have, of course, decisions, court decisions, which interpret the law. But the court is not finding the law. The law is there, and the court is interpreting the law. Whereas in the common law systems, the court makes the law. So we need precedence decisions. And in that legal systems, maybe the artificial intelligence in that sense will play a bigger role even, because it can be very heavy to find the right precedence decision. And for that, maybe these expert systems will be very, very good. Yeah, but in the continental law with the codes, with the codifications, it's a little bit different, right? Because we must interpret the terms, and interpreting is always a higher level of intelligence. So the main issues are here that the application of the law is not strictly logical. That applies especially for the continental law if we talk about the interpretation and application of legal terms in the codifications. And we have codifications from the end of the 19th century and the middle of the 19th century, and we can ask ourselves why these codifications still work in 2022. Why you can work with the civil code from 1848, or Germany can work with a civil code from 1900 in 2022, because the terms of the law are applied, but are applied in a flexible way with analogisms, with interpretations, with modernizing interpretations. So we have a certain flexibility of the law. And this applies especially to the general clauses, for example, like the good moral or the bona fides. These aspects are very, very hard to automatized, applied and interpreted. And we don't have strict logic here. We have an assessment of what should be appropriate for the situation, given the fact that the society changed over the many decades when these codifications existed. So on the other side, actually on the same side, conflicts of interest can arise, political, societal, economic, and psychological conflicts, which must be solved. So we have situations where the application of the law formally would be possible, but we see that there is a certain issue which makes it not appropriate to apply the law in that way because it was not foreseeable. A very good example for that is the cession of the contract. The cession of the contract is something which was also an issue for the pandemic time. We have a contract where someone hires a toko, a shop, or what is it named in Ruko, and make business there. And suddenly the pandemic comes and there is no income over 2 years. So what should happen with that contract? Should the owner of the Ruko be forced and have the duty to make the price lower, or even wait for payment until the pandemic is over? So should the contract be changed, or can the contract be annullated in that situation? And this is a question of the cession of the contract because of extraordinary situations. And this is actually an aspect of the bona fides principle, because in the bona fides principle, we have the duty to take care of the interest of the contractual partners even afterwards, if there is a certain situation arising which were not foreseeable, but which is from bona fides important for both partners to accept. And then it's possible that both partners must agree with an adaptation of the contract to the new situation. We had an example for that in the hyperinflation in Germany after the First World War, when a bread cost suddenly 10 million Reichsmark. For you is nothing special, 10 million, but for the German monetary system, it was incredible, because the bread before maybe 30 Pfennig, which was the cent of the German monetary system. And then suddenly one day it was 3 million Reichsmark, and the next day it was sold already 10 million, and the over next day it was already 100 million. That was the galloping hyperinflation. And in the end, the people took the money every hour from the boss and then bring it home in the end to put it to the oven, because it was more valuable to heat with that than to use it for paying money. And then, of course, if the bread, if the apartment costs, let's say 20,000 Reichsmark, but now a bread is 100 million Reichsmark, of course, you don't have a debt anymore. To give them the 20,000, this is nothing. So there must be a way to adapt the contract. And this is something which needs an equilibration of interest. And this assessment is most likely not be able to be done by AI systems, because the AI system will not know about social responsibility, social justice, or psychological aspects, especially in the criminal law. The psychological aspects cannot be underestimated, assessing the way how the punishment should be is also depending on the psychological status of the delinquent. So this conflict of interest need an equilibrating, a weighting, and that is something very flexible. Then, whereas data processing, on the contrary, is true or false. There is if then else relation, true or false. But in many aspects of the society, there is no true or false. So machines can only automatically recognize patterns, certain patterns, which can be maybe repeated, but the question whether it should be repeated in this certain situation is totally open and cannot be assessed by the machine. So alternative intelligence or artificial intelligence means analysis, representation, simulation, optimizing of information flows, not more. This is just an analyzing of information flows and, let's say, systematizing these informations. It is not intelligence because it is not conscious and not creative. We will talk about creativity in the next slide. Even self-learning programs are based on formal logic. And so we see this is nowadays at least only possible in very, very limited areas to apply. And the decision making is very determined, program controlled, concrete, formal, rational information acquisition and information handling procedure, not the question of whether the decision is fair, non-discriminatory, or just. That cannot be assessed by machines. So human characteristics in assessing, and this is not applying only to the law or to the legal tech or to the courts. This is for the whole society. Human characteristics cannot be replaced under a computer. Imagine someone came to the idea to say, we put the decision about divorce or not divorce to the decision of a machine. the machine analyze our relation and see, oh, they struggle more than 5 times a week. The loud level is very high, so it means they scream at each other. So the machine decides divorce. But the people, my own auntie was struggling and screaming with my uncle over decades, and they still married and love each other. Yeah. So the machine will not make the right decision about these issues, and how that should be different if we assess social justice or the psychological aspects in legal cases. The pros of increased efficiency: there is economic efficiency indeed, time and cost, if it is applicable, of course. Legal issues that would normally not be cost effective, so that could be taken on. So that is an interesting aspect for the lawyers. I say for the lawyers because we must differentiate. This expert system for the lawyer is less problematic than expert system for the judges because it can lead to bias. So examples making claims here: internet platform, contract generators. Contract generators, for example, in the common law or in the American law, rather possible, because these contracts are better analyzable. So there are certain elements which are always coming in this contract, and the contracts are very long and very detailed. Whereas in the continental law, contracts can be very short and leave a lot of things open to interpretation of the codified law. And here, the contract generator would be maybe not possible for complicated relations, rather for small standard contracts. And smart contracts, of course. The cons are programming requires legal knowledge. So we need programmers who are legal experts. So you cannot just have an IT guy, a programmer, making a smart contract. It must be integrated, the legal aspect. So there must be a programmer who is also the legal expert. That is what I already mentioned. Maybe the profession of the lawyer will change in the future. The user needs less legal expertise, so that one who is applying the law and enforcing the law or not, because that is already full automatically. So this leads to a shift of legal services, most likely. That is maybe a con. So this is an example about creativity of AI or non-creativity. This is very interesting. I did it myself. You find that in the internet. This is deep AI. There are several text generators by AI. So you put some text. For example, I put that text in. If you can't get a job, I don't know what you can do. You have nothing more than your education. You have no business. You are a whore, a thief in the street, and a thief, and so on and so on. And that is what the AI made of that, writing a story. If you can't get a job, don't know what you can do. You have nothing more. And then it made her father spoke softly. We're on the hook, you fucking hoe. What? No wonder you're on the hook every day, said my mom. For the last time in history, my sister watched over me while I took care of her. I'm sitting on a bench next to her, the only one I have, and so on. And so you can read it alone when you have the text. Very interesting, but does it make... I know belletristic books which are not making more sense. Yeah, this is just blah, blah, blah. But now imagine you have not something creative. You write maybe press articles. Imagine how you can fake something if you not even notice. I mean, if you see the left text, would you notice that is written by a machine? You would say, oh, someone writes something ridiculous together here. Or maybe this is a part of a rather surrealistic roman. But what I want to say, there are studies who show that texts, formal text or news text written by AI cannot be identified as done by a machine. People identify that as a human text. So now come to what is with AI, what is really the issue with AI in judges, for example. And just to make it clear, I give you here an example, a little bit derived from this Bible story of Abraham's temptation. AI is a decider over life and death. So imagine, and this is not exactly the Abraham's dilemma, but something similar. Imagine in front of you, there is a little baby. The baby is innocent and fresh and cute. And now someone tells you, you have to kill that baby, and then you will save 10,000 people. What would you do? And when I'm in the live lecture in Indonesia, I always ask the students, and often the boys say, yeah, of course I would kill the baby. It's clear. Yeah, I can save 10,000. Yeah, so yeah, that must be sacrificed then. And sometimes the women say, I don't know, or no, I cannot. Yeah. Now, what would you do? Now, what I would do, I cannot say. So I tell the students when they say I would kill the baby, I say, I swear to you, if you are in front of that baby and now the time is come to do it, it can be that you switch off. Because there is a third way out of the dilemma. What is the third way out of the dilemma? The third way out of the dilemma is not playing that game. Not playing that game of that one putting you in front of dilemma. Say, no, I don't decide that. I don't decide that. Because, and then if someone dies, may it be 10,000 or 1. That is not my decision. Because you delegate a decision to me, which is not fair. So this would be the third way. But the question is, what would the AI do? The AI would act as it is programmed. It would act in all the 3 ways, possibly, if it's programmed like that. For example, if the AI is programmed to be effective, then it will save 10,000 because it will just assess 1 against 10. It doesn't matter whether that baby looks with big eyes to the AI, to the robot. It will not have any mercy. It will kill the baby. Or the AI is programmed to, in any case, save the younger. Then the AI must assess who is the youngest. Maybe the baby is not the youngest, then baby will die. Or the baby is the youngest, then it will not die. Or it will be programmed to not, in any case, not kill a baby. Then it will not kill the baby. In any case, it will not do anything. Or it's programmed to never harm any human being. And if there is the decision between harming human beings, in that way or in that way, it should switch off, tilt. Yeah, you can find about these rules about in Isaac Asimov's books about the where he made this robot law, which in the society they use very, very developed robots, and these robots can only be accepted in the society because they program in any case not to harm human. Whatever happens, not to harm human. No effectiveness question, not harm human. If it's effective or ineffective doesn't matter. So this can be programmed, but it is always determined because it is always following its programming. So if we have autonomous driving, we have exactly the same point. So don't talk about Tesla. Tesla is not the most advanced here. The higher step is already Mercedes-Benz. However, unfortunately, not affordable for most likely anybody of us. Yeah. But how should the car decide if there is a hard goal in front of the car? So the car it has a defect brakes and then it's running against the wall. And on the side, there is some grandmother walking, and a part of that just a pass tree. And the car must decide: should I run to the hard goal, the wall, or should I go to the right side and drive over the grandmother? If the car is programmed to protect its driver, it will not drive against the wall. It would take the soft goal, which is the grandmother. If the car is programmed in any way not to harm some human, then it will go against the wall. It cannot save the driver anymore. So you see, this is really a dilemma. And if we can also, this is always interesting me a little bit more, because then always these formal aspects. So I like to talk about a little bit about philosophy here. And if we see the existentialists, and that is here Jean-Paul Sartre, who said the human being is sentenced to freedom. The human being is sentenced to freedom. What does it mean? It means that the human being is put in the world and has no other choice than to choose its way. So the way is not determined. There is no nature of the human being that fixes the human being, but the human being is what it makes himself to be. So with every decision the human being does in life, which is free, the human being shapes itself and makes itself what it is. So this is existentialism. You are free, therefore choose. You can even choose if you are in a jail waiting for the death execution. You can even choose here. You can choose to try self-suicide. You can choose to wait. You can, whatever you choose makes you and shapes you as the human being. Nobody else, nothing else, not the nature, not anything else is making you the human. The human is made by itself, by its decision. And this is I read that some months ago, and I found it is very instructive for our issue because if we compare, the machine is object. It is not the maker of itself or the shaper of itself. The human being, if it's self-learning, is not making itself. It is an object. It is an instrument. It is determined. It is not responsible, of course. So this leads to the question whether they can be sued. And it is defined by algorithm. But the human being is free to choose. Sartre called it essence follows existence. So with our existence, we make our essence by choosing in our life and acting as we act. If we decide penjahat, then our essence is that. If we decide to be a good person, then our essence is this. Self-responsible is the human being, not determined by higher instances or experiences. Of course, Sartre was an atheist, yeah. So of course, this is coming from his atheism, and morally influenced, not determined. We are influenced by flexible concepts like moral. And if we talk about moral and ethic, just make clear, ethic and moral is not the same. The moral is an influencing in groups or even individuals. Maybe your moral is different than my moral. However, the ethic is something more general. So the ethic in my society or in my area is a pluralistic ethic, which is decided by pluralistic process, how it should be fulfilled, whereas the moral is very individual. So artificial intelligence finding the facts, there is a difference between facts and legal issues, particularly considering question of proof. To assess proof by AI is very hard to do. I myself was a criminal judge and had to assess the statements of saksi, of witnesses, and to assess whether I believe the witness and not. And I can tell you that that is very hard, and you have always doubt. You can never be sure. There is never, also in the philosophy, if we see Karl Popper, there is never 100% safety and to be sure 100% about something. There's never 100% safety about facts. Whereas we can always come closer to the truth, but we will never have the 100% truth. So we come closer, we approaching the truth by falsificating what is wrong and taking it out of the game, and then trying something new. By trial and error, we come closer to the truth. But there will be only always 99%, maybe maximum, never 100% of the truth. So, and then automatic clarification only by structuring. That is what the AI do. Structured data collection, basic information forms, standardized requirements for claims. That is be able to be processed by AI. Pre-structuring of presented information. Complex cases can be pre-structured through patterns and similarities. That's it. And even with that, we must be careful, because this could make a bias. Yeah, make a bias to the decider, to the human decider. Because if I see these IT people, how they believe in their AI algorithms, I'm sure if the AI says 90% likeliness, they would not think about it anymore. However, as a judge, I can tell you, I don't know how it's in the process law in Indonesia, but it will be the same. In the German criminal process system, the judge is not allowed to sentence, even if all the witnesses speak out for a certain decision. I cannot sentence someone if myself, I have a personal doubt, a little doubt, about whether the delinquent is really guilty or not. I cannot sentence, even if the press will say how this judge cannot sentence here. Every witness said the same. Why did not sentence? Because I have a doubt, and that doubt makes me deciding against the sentence. And that is my duty as the judge to decide also with my impression. And that is why every bukti, every proof must be brought in front of the court, of the human court, of the judges, to be assessed by their own witness and their own eyes and their own ears of the court, of the human parts of the court, of the judges. So the risk is specialities of a case cannot be properly recorded. Especially if laymen fill out the forms and put it to the algorithm. But more important, the person using the law is biased by previous similar cases and also biased by the decision of the AI. And I can tell you, a judge can be very sleepy if you work all day long. And in the evening, you want to go home, you want to have your dinner, and then you maybe have to decide something. And the system tells you, most likeliness, 95%. Will the judge say, okay, 5%, maybe I must have more proof? Or will he say, okay, 95%, it will be like that. So let's say sentence, yeah? This is really a problem. And finding the correct norm by AI is very problematic because, yeah, we have semantic search machines, data bank, of course, decisions, which are not just including stupid, the same or similar words, but also take the context into consideration. And yeah, we can make legal formatic analysis of electronic files, but the risk is the high quantity of court decisions and directions. You cannot, the legal person cannot use own judgment anymore because the AI is including so many points, which maybe makes a fog over the clear viewing in the case, which maybe needs not that much information, but rather assessment by equilibrists. So subsumption of the facts, conclusion, the case is brought together with legal norm. Okay, this is the subsumption, but it is not only subsumption under a single norm, it's the complete legal system, especially in the codified systems we have that issue. Then we have a complex get together of systematic and writing aspects. Yeah, we have interpretation. Rules must be defined. Legal terms are formed according to their function. So we must define the rule. We must define whether we apply the rule or exceptionally not apply the rule because it is not fitting to the situation. We have the interpretation, the teleological interpretation, the grammar interpretation. Maybe the reduction of the rule to zero. Also that we have. We reduct the rule to zero because there is, from the just aspect, from the justice aspect, no way to apply the rule. So we must diminish the application of the rule to zero in the way of the interpretation. And the decision and the acceptance is also an issue. How acceptable will be decisions by automated system in the society? The judge make a decision on the basis of a subjective evaluation, including objective standards, of course, but subjective evaluation. I mentioned that. The decision without direct influence by a human is only automatic. Will the parties really accept that decision? That means, will the party understand the justice aspect of the legal decision or not, if it's just algorithmic? So the conclusion for lawyers is repetitive and standardized legal work can be done safer and more efficiently through digitalization. The AI can help in preparing human juridical decisions. The user must have a certain digital competence for that. Empathy, human knowledge, comprehension, just judges, and political feeling are required, but cannot be done by AI. And emotional social intelligence is always missing from AI. Now, can the AI replace judges? And a very short. If you see the real situation of a judge, and again, I was a judge. One day you come to the court and you have a bad day and you are very sleepy and you're very angry because something happened at home or whatever. And one day you are in the best mood. Now, when we assess a delinquent, we cannot say we are free of emotions. So sometimes the court will be very, very good mood, and maybe without noticing it, the sentence will be lower than it could have been. Or in one day, the court says, now we must start to add an example, and the sentence will be maybe higher because the court says, the judge says, I cannot stand that anymore. Always happening. So we must make it. Of course, this is not correct. It's not good. It is not good that we are biased also by our emotion too much. But on the other side, that is the essence of human being. And human beings make the society. And the delinquent is in a court of the society. This means that is the chance and the danger for the delinquent that he comes on to a judge which has a good mood or a judge which has a bad mood, of course, within the limits of the legality. So if there is a certain range of possible sentences, if that is fulfilled, you never know whether the court will give you 6 months or 9 months. Yeah, it can happen that it's 9 months or 6 months. Who want to prove that it's just because emotion? However, that is a risk and a chance for the delinquent. However, some people say if the AI replaces judge, we don't have this flexibility anymore, this faultiness of the human decision. I say, without that faultiness, with the determinism of the AI, we have a clear problem with the human dignity. The human dignity shall be inviolable. To respect and protect it shall be the duty of all state authority. The German people therefore acknowledge inviolable and inalienable human rights as the basis of every community of peace and justice in the world. How we can have human dignity if the human is subject to determined, automatized, algorithmic decisions when it comes to his future. So this is, in my opinion, a heavy problem for the human dignity. And my country is not so strong to the religion aspect, but in Indonesia, you could surely also find aspects from the Islamic law or from the Christian ideas of the religions in your country, of the sixth religion, why it is not ethical to put the decision about the human fate to an algorithmic decision. However, the German preamble of the basic law mentions God, but God is here rather a concept for saying that there is no certain religion which is defining the things and determining the things, that we have something which is over the human being, which hangs the human dignity over the discretion of the legislator. So the legislator cannot change the human dignity. So judges are not perfect, do mistakes, can be biased, have feelings. Isn't that an advantage of algorithmic judges? No. Human dignity includes the right to be heard by a human judge for good reason. The risk and the chance of a wrong human decision, even a wrong human decision, is immanent to human social existence. Application of law is not static. It needs the capacity to draw analog decisions, and legal rules might have to be adapted to exceptional or new situations until no application. So the teleologic reduction to 0. So the conclusion for judges is fully automatic judgment must be rejected for legal and ethical reasons. Non-trivial matters will never be resolved automatically. Not desirable important functions of judicial application of the law, some balancing of interest, pacification of the parties, adaptation to social and technical developments would be lost. So we cannot accept that for the judges. So if we come back to the role of the notary, then we see the role of the AI is depending on the tasks of the notary, and that is depending on the legal systems. The civil law notary cannot surely not be replaced to the notary. And I remember one of our students asked me that last week. I said he doesn't think that notary will replace. I agree with that. We have here qualified lawyers. We have negotiating and drafting of contracts. Maybe that can be a certain way done, but Indonesia also don't have a codified system, so not so easy. But of course, the legal advice is difficult by AI, especially the interpretation of the law, the mediation power of the attorney, which is also be given to the notary. And very important, at least for the German law, the warning function of the notarial form. We have not for nothing, the notarial form, for example, for selling real estate property, in order to warn the people who are not legal experts that they should not just easy sell their property, because traditionally in the German law, the property of real estate is very valuable and defines the citizen. And so the citizen should be very careful if he sells that. So they should go to the notary, and the notary should have a warning function to that, how the algorithm ever should do that. And just a short overview, what happens in Europe in a moment, you can find that. We have a proposal for regulation of the European Parliament, of the Council, laying down harmonized rules on artificial intelligence, the Artificial Intelligence Act, and amending certain legislative acts. This is from April 2021. It's still in discussion. I'm sure it will come. It is highly criticized because it's a horizontal law. Very easy to say is that this regulation will differentiate between certain application situations of AI and evaluate it, how dangerous it is in that certain application areas. And the more dangerous, the more stronger and stricter it is regulated. For example, AI in teddy bears able to influence children is very dangerous, will be forbidden totally. AI in just expert systems for the research is not dangerous, will not be forbidden, and middle dangerous AI will be strict reliability and all these things. I cannot go into the deep because our time is over. You find here the references, you find here the draft of the EU regulation. You find, unfortunately, a German article. Maybe someone can use you can use the DeepL for translated, or the Google Translator. Die Blockchain in Deutsch im Mobiliarsachenrecht. Keine Konkurrenz fürs Grundbuch. This is the blockchain, which is not a concurrent for the real estate register, and the proposal and the regulation on electronic identification or trust services, EIDAS, which I talked about last time. Thank you very much for your attention. With that, I'm ready with my presentation.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Koos. Prof, this is really interesting if we talk about artificial intelligence, right? So maybe we will open a Q&A session, but allow me to ask first. Like we already know, Prof, that Australian Federal Court already admitted that artificial intelligence can be a patent owner, right? And it raises many questions, like in your presentation, that can AI replace legal entities like judges, lawyers, or even notary? So, I mean, I want to ask the firm answer from you. Is that AI replace notary is future or just utopia? I think that's my question, Prof. Please, maybe.
Yeah, the court decision of Australia, I honestly, I don't know, but there is also a court decision of the United States about this monkey, this Indonesian macaca monkey, who made a photo. So the photographer had a dinner or a lunch in the jungle, and then that monkey came, took the cam and make a selfie. And that selfie is spreading in the internet. You may know that selfie of that smiling macaca monkey. And then the animal protection organization PETA was claiming as the legal guardian for that monkey in court of United States for the hak cipta for the monkey, because this photographer made a lot of money with that photo and monetarized that photo. And they said that money should be to the monkey. And of course, the question was, and you can see, I don't know the decision of Australia. I cannot say about that because then I must read that first. But I don't know what is their reason. But in any case, in Australia, they seem very open in the discussion about personification. This is a general problem of the personification. I always use this example with a monkey about the question whether AI can be a personification, so can be a legal subject. And this all is depending on whether an entity or a phenomenon can have a legal subjectivity. If you are not a legal subject, you cannot have a patent. If you're not a legal subject, you cannot have a copyright. So the monkey cannot have a copyright, is not able to be a legal subject. And therefore, and the second question, of course, will be if exactly PETA organization is able to be the guardian, or the friend in the American law. And the American court said, no, the monkey is not a legal subject. So the monkey cannot have the copyright. And maybe you can find in ResearchGate my article about that, because I wrote in short article in Malaysia. It's in my ResearchGate about that, how to personify that. And I also citate some Indonesian or Malaysian researcher doing that from the perspective of the Islamic law even. We have two ways how to do this personification. One way is the fiction theory, and one way is the reality theory. The reality theory in Germany is depending on Otto von Gierke's idea in the company law, which says that the group as a reality must be accepted as a legal subject. So this is the basic of why a company, why a association can be a legal subject. However, if we say the reality theory, then we must say why, philosophically, why the monkey, or what was it, the machine should be a legal subject. And that can be philosophically only if there is certain parallel to the human being. Because in the reality theory, we have always this human factor as an aspect for analogizing the entity to the human being, to the natural moral person, right? So for the animal, I would say there is feelings, there is emotion, yeah. So it would be rather able to, in the reality theory, to personify the animal than the AI, because the AI has nothing which make it similar to the human being. So with the reality theory, this is my opinion on that, is you will not be able to personify the AI. However, with the fiction theory, which is in Germany, by one of the fathers of the German civil code, Savigny, the idea of Savigny is the fiction theory says we just make a fiction of a legal personality or a legal subjectivity. Yeah. So if we decide that books are always bad treated, so we want to protect books, we just decide in the law by discretion of the legislator that is a legal subject. Yeah. So if the legislator says a limited liability company is a legal subject, then it's like that because it's a fiction which analyzes it to the human being. And if we say the AI should be protected or should be able to make contracts and should be sued or should have patent, then we make a fiction of that. So yeah, the question is, which is the leading opinion? In my opinion, this is not the leading opinion, is we have the reality teaching, but others may be the fiction. Maybe Australia does it in the fiction. Bolivia, I think, makes the nature as a legal subject, yeah, just by fiction. And this leads to many problems, yeah. Once you decide that, you open the, how is it, the Buncus, yeah, Buncus Pandora, yeah, this box of Pandora, because box, then you must decide about many other things. Once the AI is a legal subject and can have a patent or a copyright, then the AI can be sued.
Yeah,
and
sure.
is it really helping the legal traffic if the AI can be sued? Without any substance to be sued, there is nothing. So, for example, if you want to sue the car who is driving over the grandma, with what money they should be liable? With what money? That must be decided. What is the substance for be sued? And that means we will have a lot of following questions like fundraising for a fund which is taken for paying the damages by the AI, yeah, because the AI has no money, yeah. So the AI has maybe no assets. So these are really really problems. And I don't know whether how they reason that, but I know there's discussion about protecting dolphins or protecting gorillas and orangutans by making them legal subjects for protecting. But if it's about acquiring patents or copyright, the patent is definitely an economic asset. So if the AI should be owner of economic asset, the AI can be also part of the economic traffic. And that means there is also potential for being sued. All right. And so this is a very difficult question. So the question is very easy. In my opinion, in our understanding in the moment, this is not necessary. Yeah. So for liability aspects, the EU has a concept for that. I wanted to open that slide, but I don't find it very fast now because it's in one of my German lectures. But the EU has a concept on that, on the question how the AI can be handled in the situation of being, let's say, creative. Yeah, how can the creativity be handled in that way? Oh, now I found it. I can share that with you short, and because this is actually a very important question by you. Let me just give you the screen with that. Wait. So this here is the question. Yeah. So the question is, in the moment, how close the output, so let's say the invention or the copyrighted work, is to the human. So we are not accepting the AI as a subject for the protection in the intellectual property right, but we handle the AI as an intermediary instrument. And the question is, how close is it to the human? So this means if the KI is just an instrument of the human person, then it's Urheberrecht. Then we say Hak-Chipta is given or patent is given. Yeah. If the AI is just an instrument, it's clear we have that. If the AI decide about the creativity aspects or the creativity of the invention or the work, then we say there is no intellectual property, because that we don't give the AI the capability to acquire rights, because it's not a legal subject. And if the decision about how the creativity is given by the human and the AI, then we make it dependent on how close it is to the human. If it's too far from the human, we say no. If it's too close, if it's closer, we say yo, it's copyright. Otherwise, there's no copyright. And for the monkey question is how close is this picture of that monkey to the human here? Is it close enough or not? If it's not close enough, then it's no copyright at all, and not even the monkey can have the copyright. So my answer is, in how the law is in the moment, we will not be able to do that. There are some tricks how to make AI legal subjects by the Copperly law, for example. There is one idea: founding a Delaware company by two persons, just executing the wish of the AI. So they just do what the AI decide. They have an algorithm decide, they just do that. After they introduced that company, both founders go out of the company and we have a no man's company. This no man's company will have organs, but only executes what the AI decide. And then we have practically a legal subject, because in the US company law, in some part of the US company law, it seems to be possible that there is a no man's company, which is just dependent on the AI. And what is piquant and interesting is that maybe that company could come to our countries, yeah, because in the international private law, in the conflict of laws, sometimes we must accept companies how they are founded in the other country, especially in Germany. And this is a question of the public order that we could not accept that. But you see, and the dominant opinion is that the AI cannot be a legal subject.
Okay, thank you, Prof. It's really interesting. Prof, I think we already have one question from Zilmi Haridi. How is the concept of criminal liability against artificial utilization intelligence in the perspective of civil law in contract manufacturing?
Criminal liability or civil liability?
I'm sorry, sir. It's civil liability.
Okay. I mean, contract manufacturing, if you use the AI as an instrument, it is still in the moment still developed by the lawyer who is developing that contract, and by the one who is giving the input to the algorithm. So if the input is wrong, then it is the question of the responsibility of the one who gives the input. So we have, in this sense, two sides. We have the side of the input to the already ready product. For example, you have a contract maker algorithm. Yeah. So the input can be wrong, but it can be also wrong that this program maker or this product maker, this contract maker, is wrong programmed. And then we would have a classical question of the production liability of the programming company or of the programmers. And this will be a big topic for the future, to define the product liability for these products, especially if the artificial intelligence products are getting more independent from the programming. So the programming is a basic, and then the AI is maybe self-learning and self-developing and maybe even self-programming certain aspects. And then will be the question, how strong will be the liability of the basic programmer for these products? And this is, again, the basic issue for the future, how we want to shape our civil law, especially if it comes to liability and responsibility, if damages are more and more dependent on automatized system and algorithms and not anymore so much about human. In the moment, we would have the option of strict liabilities, So who has the advantage of the use of an instrument would be liable. But the farther it comes, it goes away from the user or from the one who is participating of the advantages of the use, the more we must ask the question whether we need different categories than behavioral categories for the liability and for the civil liability. Just to close that, just a short example. In a moment, if I use a self-driving system, the law gives me the duty to always be able to overrule the system. So we have an international contract of Vienna of cars, of car traffic, and it says, and it is also implemented in the German traffic law, no matter how sophisticated the self-driving system is, the driver must be always able to control the situation. So the driver cannot, like Tesla made it in the advertising, to just read newspaper or sleep in the car. The driver must be always attentive and able to conduct the car, even if the AI is taking over. So this is one point. The next point is, what if we have very sophisticated self-driving systems, which always raise the question of liability, right, in the traffic. And we have a traffic like Jakarta, and we have these self-driving cars, and we have individually driven cars. I mean, can you imagine how automatized intelligent driving Teslas or Mercedes will drive in Jakarta when all these motorbikes do something? Why the traffic in Jakarta works, or in Indonesia generally works? Because the people look to each other and communicate by checking out how the other one will react. It's foreseeing in a certain way, but in a certain way it's also feelings, right? So if we introduce a self-driving traffic, then we do it maybe for rationalizing the traffic, but that means we must switch off the human factor in the traffic. This means we must force anybody to use self-driving, self-automatized systems. And then the individual cannot be responsible anymore for what the AI do, because we cannot be choosing anymore whether we want to use it or not. And then latest we need new concept. You see here, but the product liability, this is the big topic of the future. The product liability of the programmer, how the programmer is liable for what happens with its system in the use of the system, especially to the contract manufacturing or the programming of the smart contracts, which cannot be changed anymore. So once it is programmed, the issue is there. And if it executes wrong and there is a damage, who should be liable? Yeah, of course, the one who programs them. Okay. Then
okay.
We have another one?
Yeah, Prof. We still have, I think this is the last one, Prof.
Oh, we can do the both. I make that fast. I think that AI can't replace human notary because AI don't have minds. Akal Kirian. Notary in Indonesia demanded to be scientist. It can be seen from notary education must be master program. How about notary education in Germany? I have no idea about notary education in Germany, actually. Actually, the notary education is the same education that anybody has. So we all have 2 state examens. So actually, I made the notary education also. I know the basic functions, and then you become a notary, and then you learn by job. But every expert coming out of the German second state examen as a we call it assessor, has the capacity to be a judge at least. And the judge is the highest part of the legal expertise. So anybody can do everything. Yeah. So we are not master or bachelors, and then we make an additional track of education to notary or lawyer or whatever or judges. So we all are judges basically. Every German comes out of the 2 state examen is potentially a judge, and can then go to any legal job and also to the economy. That's why the German law experts are very well searched for the economy, even in non-law professions, because we are very generalists. So the second one is, I want to ask, what is the potential that AI will the first is how responsible civil law in Germany and what different in Indonesia, on my perspective. Yeah, the responsibility in the German law is in the moment, in the cars, for example, strict liability. So the one who used the car is liable for what happens with the car. without any guilt. So if my car happens an accident, I have always a liability just because I use the car. And this is an economic assessment, yeah, because we say this is my advantage using the car. I'm the one who use it privately as an advantage. Why should the society or the damaged individual be wearing the damage? Yeah, so I must, of course, reimburse the damage if I have the advantage from the use of a dangerous item. Same happened to aircraft. Same can happen to nuclear, electric production, e-production. Yeah, so atomic plants, and so. However, they are also in the interest of the society. So there is a certain topping up of the liability in the interest of the society. So it's absolutely only private use. Then I have the strict liability. And if you use these systems in the car, for example, then it's the same. And the liability for AI systems generally will be, if it's a dangerous AI, then there will be strict liability. So without guilt, you will be liable if you use that system for your own advantage and if it's not in the interest of the society. This is also economically clear. You can calculate who is the cheapest insurer of a danger. So the one who used the AI can conduct and can control the AI, so that one can take measurements to control it, that there is no damage happening. So that one must be liable. And the last one, what is the potential that AI will surpass human intelligence? Yeah, I'm not a researcher in that, but I know that even in the IT research, in the IT science, many people doubt that the AI will ever take over human intelligence. However, the danger is that we choose to be a society which is more utilitaristic and delayed flexible aspects like social justice or in favor of effectiveness. Yeah. So there are approaches from the 70s, like the economic analysis of law. If you use it as an only instrument, it's very dangerous because it just calculates effectiveness of civil law relations. Yeah. So who should be able to throw out someone from your apartment? Should we protect the weaker one who is living in that apartment, who is not so rich, or should we protect the owner? So what is better for the welfare of the society? And then they often say, for the welfare is better than that the rich one who can use it economically in a better way, in a more effective way than the weaker one. So we don't protect the weaker one. But this is, of course, not compatible with the social state principle in many constitutions, especially in the German constitution and also European Union. So if that is the case, we will not be able. But if it's more utilitaristic and it's only done for effectiveness, then it may be that many parts of what is now assessed by human would be maybe used, the AI. But in my opinion, the potential that we have a really strict AI with feelings is very weak.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. You already answered all the questions in the chat box. It's really interesting about artificial intelligence because I have interest about the topic. So your excellent presentations really open my mind, and I hope all participants enjoy our discussion today too. But Prof,
please, if you are interested in that topic, I'm sorry that I interrupt you. Please access my ResearchGate, and you find alone 3 articles about artificial intelligence in that. One is from Malaysian Journal of Sharia and Law in LL.M University in Kuala Lumpur. One is from Juridika in Erlangga, and one is from Universitas Islam Riau Legal Law Review about exactly that topic of AI.
Okay, Prof. I already note that there. Prof, before we close, please let me to ask all the invite all participants to turn on the camera, and we will take some picture first. Can you turn on our camera, please, all participants, so we can take documentation? Okay. The first 1, 2, 3. Okay. The second one. Okay, and the third one, the last one. Okay, I already get it. Prof, we are really thankful for your presentation today, and we are thankful to to Prof. Hasim Purba and Prof. Rosnidar Sembiring, the head and the secretary of Notary's Master Study Program, to make this event. So, Prof, thank you. And this is the end session related to cyber notary with Prof. Stephen Koos. Have a good day.
Thank you very much
Prof.
for the occasion. It was a pleasure for me, and I hope in the 2023 I can come to university and do exactly that program in presence.
Yeah,
not
sure,
anymore
Prof.
in this in this Zoom.
Yeah, it will be lost too. Yeah. Okay, Prof. Have a good day, Prof. Assalamualaikum
Thank you.
warahmatullahi
Bye-bye.
wabarakatuh. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Prof.
Bye-bye, Prof.